We are live. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to today's broadcast. I am Dale Warner from Realvolve, and joining me today is Jacob. He's going to be on the webinar helping me answer questions, etc. So you might see two of us here, but I'll be doing the bulk of the talking and engaging here. So if you have any questions for me as we go along here, please use the Q&A, use the chat. We're going to be monitoring that and are happy to get feedback and questions as we go along here. So today we're talking about stop losing listings from your own database. And Realvolve has a little bit of a unique way of looking at this problem of getting listings out of your own database. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about how we approach database work, some things that we can do inside our technology, Realvolve, which is a CRM, a client relationship management database and workflow platform. So there's some automation built into our system and some other measurements that you're not going to get in other systems. And I wanted to share those with everybody today just to hopefully give you some ideas, some things that you can do in today's very difficult market. So first of all, a little tiny bit about me. I've been working in real estate technology for about 10 years now, technology before that, and then mortgage loans before that. So I've been in and around the industry for very focused for the last 10 years, focused on real estate technology, but started out my career early on as a mortgage loan officer back in the cowboy days before 2008. I love process. I love sales. I love talking about culture in companies and teams. So this is Realvolve is my third Inc. 500 fastest growing companies. Fun fact, I'm a proud tractor owner. So anybody else that likes working out on their on property or working the land, gardening, that kind of stuff, hit me up. So like I said, this is my third Inc. 500 company. Realvolve hit the list in 2019 and probably in 2020. We're going to find out here in just a little bit. And our 3-year growth was 1,164%. So we're growing very quickly. And I think it's because we are onto something with our workflow platform, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit and why you should care about it. But our philosophy is a little different. I'm not going to go through all of this, but we think differently about hustle. We think differently about you being a linchpin or a bottleneck in your business. We think a little bit differently about leads versus conversion. And we think a little differently about owning versus renting technology, especially when it comes to renting space on the portals and other places like that, or just borrowing other people's processes versus making processes your own and infusing those into your team. So you're going to hear these themes throughout the presentation today. But at Realvolve, our objective is to help agents get efficient with their things so that they can be effective with their people. And we do that through automation. Automation should not replace agents. It should enable agents to become more front and center in their marketplace and with their clients. And so it's relationships enabled by technology. And so if we can offload some of the busy work that we have in our teams and in our real estate business, if we can delegate some of that to technology and efficiently delegate that to other members of the team, then we as the team leader or the sole proprietor or however your team structure is, can focus more on the big picture things, the strategy, the building relationships in the community, thinking about how we're going to market, thinking about how we respond when things get challenging like they are now. And so it's all about being efficient so that you can be more effective. So I just want to quickly set the stage for our discussion today, because I'm going to be talking a lot about technology and about CRM and how that can enable you to keep more of the listings that are present in your database that you might not know about yet. And going back in time, my father was a computer programmer starting in the late 70s. And I remember as a kid going into some of his weekend jobs with him. He took me along on a couple of projects, and these businesses that my dad worked with, he did custom software development, and it would oftentimes cost over $100,000 for the software development. And it wasn't even software development, it was database programming back then. There wasn't software. And the other thing that they would spend money on is these machines. So there's giant machines, and this was a small one. I remember big, giant room-sized machines. But this was more of a small terminal that my father would work on. And my point in bringing this up is that we have forgotten the value of our databases, our own data that we can collect, that we can hang on to. These businesses that my dad used to work on would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to be able to do a simple query to search how much inventory they had or how many customers they had serviced last month. And for us in today's age, it is extremely cheap to be able to do this. Doesn't take a ton of time, doesn't cost a lot of money, and yet we don't put the energy into this thing that has been available to us for decades now. This is just one example of the hard drive was actually a tape. And so there was these big drawers, you'd slide the tape in, and to back up the data, you'd slide it out, write a label, stick it on the shelf, and put a new fresh tape in there. So it's just amazing how far we've come, but it saddens me that a lot of us have forgotten how important it is to track our data. Again, that's a little bit about what I'm going to be talking with you about today. And then one other last quick note on databases. There's a difference between just a repository of information and a tool that actually enables you to automate some of your tasks. So again, Realvolve focuses on being efficient with things and tasks so you can be more effective with people. There are plenty of database tools out there, CRMs. Some of them only cost $99 a year. If you don't have anything that you're using, definitely get something. But just know that the simpler the tool, the more like a search it is, where you can just query something, you can type in somebody's name and pull up some notes about them. I call it a glorified spreadsheet. A glorified spreadsheet is still better than nothing. And so you want something you can quickly go in there, categorize your people, all of your past clients, the people that you're working with now, your friends and family, your sphere of influence. And so get a CRM if you don't have one. Now let's talk a little bit about process before I go into showing you some of the tips and techniques that I want to talk about today. So this is a Model T Ford. Now, Henry Ford developed this Model T, but there was other automobiles and horseless carriages in development. The real revolution that Ford brought to the world was the assembly line. So the assembly line allowed them to produce very cheap cars, lots of them, so that people could actually afford them. So he transformed the world because of this assembly line that he just happened to be using on an automobile. But the assembly line was also a huge, huge innovation that allowed us to produce way more goods at a cheaper price so that more people could get access to these goods and elevate the quality of life. It's the same thing in real estate. If we can engineer processes, and all the big tech companies are doing it, if you can get really efficient and engineer processes, you can be so much more efficient in your own business. And this is a tool that I bought for my kids a few Christmases ago, and every segment of this little caterpillar toy represents an action. Go straight, turn left, turn right, whatever. And you put them together in the right order, and it gets from point A to point B. See the green dot to the red dot there. And so what we've done with Realvolve is this for real estate. We give you all the building blocks of building a process, of putting a process together, and allow you to do that with your emails, your text messages, your phone calls, and even face-to-face mediums. But there's a hierarchy here. All right, so the combination of all of those communication mediums combined with task management, combined with calendars, is that we can do all kinds of really cool things, again, that kind of give you a superpower, that allow you to be much more efficient. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on how all of that stuff works, but I do want to invite you to join us for a demonstration. If you like what you see today on this webinar and you want some more ideas and want to learn more about what we can help you with, go to realvolve.com/demo. and we're happy to just walk you through some of your options. We always say no is a perfectly acceptable answer, but we'd love to show you what our tool is totally capable of doing, and just to help you find out if that's going to be a good fit for you and your business. And so when we talk about engineering a process, what we want to do is think through all of the options, all of the different things that can happen with a relationship, with a listing, with a buyer that we're working with. And so we create a workflow that is a series of tasks that have branches in them, like this. So if I'm working with somebody to go to a listing appointment, for example, and I don't have a decision yet, I'm going to branch off to the right in my workflow process. No decision means I put them on a drip campaign. And if I don't get the listing at all, maybe I put them on a plan to follow up in 30, 60, 90 days to see how they're doing with the listing, and maybe if they want to change agents when the listing is expired. And if I do get the listing, I'm going to go into my pre-listing workflows. And so I need more than just one option. It's not just a campaign, it's project management for real estate. And that's the real power of setting all of this stuff up. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit. And I just want to talk about today's market a little bit. So obviously, everybody wants listings. Nobody wants to work with buyers right now. Maybe you do, but it's just extremely difficult in most markets. And, you know, when I'm talking with people, I've heard, you know, 40 or 60 cash offers. I've heard people getting $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 over asking price. We've heard all of the crazy stories. There was one person that I talked to last week that said 90% of the business done in their local market was completed by 4% of the agents. 90% of the transactions were done by 4% of the agents. So this consolidation is something that we all have to contend with right now, that the top teams, the people that are the best at advertising, best at following up with their past clients, are the ones getting most of the business. A 90% and a 90%, 4% split is horrendous. It is just not tenable. And I've heard somebody say that the market isn't sick right now, but the market has a fever. So some people are saying the market's hot, and others of us are going, this is not hot. This is really bad for me. And so I want to talk about a couple of concepts about what we can do today to make sure that we're digging ourselves out, because the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. So what things can we do today to make sure that we're hanging on to our clients and that they're not going somewhere else? Because consumer loyalty is a big problem in our industry. Consumers will go to the portals and search properties and fill out a form when they see something they like late at night. And now all of a sudden, one of our past clients is a lead for our competitors. And it's going to be really difficult for us to now fight with other agents when we could have hung on to that person. And so the first thing I want to talk about is make sure that you have a safety net in place. And so what do I mean by safety net? A safety net is a base level of communication that every single person in your past client database and your sphere of influence is getting. Just the baseline. I'm not talking about the optimal level, because the optimal level is, you know, if we could wave a magic wand, you're getting face to face with people, you're talking with them and engaging with them all the time, and your relationship is super strong. But the base level safety net needs to be covered first. That's step number one, at least a drip campaign. Even if it's bad, even if it's not the most eloquently well-crafted drip campaign, at least get something in place so that when you close a deal, there is a drip campaign following up with people. And what we do in Realvolve is we have these 5-year drip campaigns that are kind of a base level safety net. At least the emails are going out and you don't have to lift a finger. The automation starts as soon as a deal is closed, and you don't have to worry at least about the safety net side of things. And there's some other things that we do with safety net. Let me just actually show you another aspect of the safety net that we do in Realvolve, and just kind of propose some ideas on how you can execute on those in your CRM. So I'm going to reshare my screen here and just show you inside Realvolve for a second. So what we have on our dashboard in Realvolve is my favorite thing about any CRM that I've ever seen, whether it's outside or inside of the industry, and that's our contact cross-section. So it's this box here on the bottom right. This is a safety net. So I can see everybody in my database that needs follow-up today. So I have people in these different categories. So we're categorizing them for you automatically based on whether they're a prospect or a client or a past client. And then how strong your relationship is. We're measuring that by how many emails and phone calls have gone back and forth, and how long you've known them, how long they've been in the database, how much detail you have about them. So do you have their kids' information? Have they done a deal with you? Have they sent you referrals? All of that matters. And so we're automatically moving people through this grid from the bottom left corner up to the top right corner. And when I click on one of these people, so I've got in the past client trust category, I've got somebody and it says Bruce Wayne. It's been 26 days since my last personal visit. So I can call him right here from the system, and it'll pull up my Realvolve dialer, and I can call him, and it'll mark that he was called and move him off the list. I can text. I can even change some of these dates. So I can say I bumped into him in the grocery store or whatever, and change the dates there, or I can leave a little note. Once I do that follow-up, or send a text. Once I do that follow-up, he's going to drop off that list, and I can go back. So I know exactly how many people have fallen into that safety net. And based on how well I know them, what my relationship is, Realvolve is going to recommend a higher or lower amount of communication. And so if they're a lead and it's already been 2 months or something since I generated that lead, it's going to just make sure I'm consistent with some monthly follow-up or something like that, based on how I categorize the lead. But if it's more of a client, one of my key relationships that have given me referrals, it's going to be recommending that I follow up with that person much more regularly. And it's going to hold me more accountable to the personal visits, dropping things off at their house, actually calling them versus just sending them an email. So again, this is just the concept of a safety net is built into everything we do in our system. So you have a base level of emails or drip campaign with text messages and emails in it. And then you also have our contact cross-section, which means don't let anybody go too long without follow-ups. And we have lots of different scripts and tons of ideas for what to say, when to reach out, and how to reach out. Okay. So what's one client worth? I did this simple calculation, and this was just based on some data that I could find. So average home price, back in 2015, average home price was $361,000 in the United States. Could be a lot more than that now. Average commission, 3%, brokerage fee. I've got average take home, average age of a client, average years in a home. Now this is something that is drastically changing year to year. The national average was only 6 years before 2008. 6 years was the average time that a person spent in one home. It was up to 10 a couple of years ago. Of course, the events in the last year have changed this even more, probably going to skew the average maybe up another 6 months or a year. And then the probability of a repeat client. NAR's national average, according to their survey data, is 23%. If we can be better than the national average, if we can double, which I think is totally reasonable, the average is pretty poor. So I don't think it's unreasonable to think that we could do twice as good as the national average. And if we can get referrals on average, if we can get 2 referrals per past client, that means some of our past clients are going to give us lots of referrals. I know I've given my real estate agent more than 10 referrals in the last 5 years of people that they actually closed, because I do a lot of networking in my community. I know a lot of people, and he does a great job following up with me. And so I always recommend him. That means on average, and this could be totally different in your market, but on average, based on these calculations, clients worth about $100,000 if you do a good job of following up with them, if you can get repeat and referral out of this. So you can, of course, you can change some of these metrics and say, maybe my lifetime referrals per client is only 0.25 or something on average. And maybe my probability of a repeat client is more like the average, which is 23%. You're probably going to be more in the $25,000, $30,000 range for the average value of a client, lifetime value. But if you think about this, as you go through your career, 5 years, 10 years of doing a really good job of following up with people, this just balloons. Now you have so many more people that are worth that $30,000 to $100,000 to you, and you're capturing them in your database because you're doing a good job of following up. And that's, of course, just what we're talking all about today. Now, the trend, this is the interesting thing. So the consumers are certainly behaving differently than they were 20 years ago. But the trend is actually that young people are more prone to do repeat and referral business, according to the past couple of years of data. So what I have here on the screen is the NAR data for repeat and referral business going back to 2010 up to 2018. And in the 2018, I only have the data for those that are 37 years old or younger. So these are millennials. These are the older millennials are right now about, depending on who you're talking to, about 37 to 40 years old. And they actually repeat and referral way more often than the older generations. It's a significant uptick. So we went from 61 to 64, maybe 2015 and 2016, up to 71 amongst those 37 or younger for repeat and referral business among sellers. And it's about 48% among buyers within that 37 or younger range. So don't fall into this trap of thinking that because I have to have this digital presence, that's all I need to do. Because the younger generation also wants personal touches, and they also will refer, and they will also do repeat business if we follow up with them properly. So let's talk about the hierarchy of communication. Now, this is so basic, I shouldn't have to say it, but I do just want to set the table for some of the points that we're talking about today. So face-to-face is best. Phone calls are next. Text messages are powerful, but don't overdo it. Personal email is last. But again, the text messages and the personal email can be the base level safety net communication. Mass communication is different, but it's still very valuable. So don't forget that bulk emails and newsletters and things like that are still extremely valuable. Now, a quick word on email. 67% of businesses listed email marketing as the marketing channel with the highest ROI because it's so low cost and so easy to do, and it still provides an ROI. It's the highest ROI because the investment is so low. So please, 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 I'm pleading with you, make sure that you have that base level communication going out the door. Email marketing earned 400% higher ROI than any other digital marketing channel, according to surveys. Now, this was across multiple different categories of industries, but across the board, email continues to be one of the highest ROI channels. Certainly, if you double down on one marketing channel and you get really good and you have some expertise there, right? I talk to real estate agents and teams all the time that are really good with radio, really good with billboards, really good with Facebook or Instagram marketing. Fantastic. That's great. Just keep in mind that across the board, email has the highest ROI. It might not be for you, but that still means I need to take a look at what I'm doing on email marketing to stay in touch with my past clients and make sure that I'm doing a good job there. Again, Realvolve has a ton of emails. We have hundreds of email templates in our workflow library that you can use. And so I highly recommend reaching out to us and just doing a quick demo. Just get on the call with us and let us evaluate what you're doing and offer some suggestions and find out if it's a good fit for you. So categories, tags, and filterings. This is what trips people up. When talking about past clients and nurturing your database and make sure you're hanging on to your listings, a lot of people don't understand how to properly categorize their clients. So I want to say a couple of things. The first is just the framework that you should use. So here's just some rules that you should use when you're tagging your clients. So one-word tags when practical, and then you can search groups of tags. So if you're using only one-word tags, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second, but if you're only using one-word tags, you can always string several tags together as long as they're separate one-word tags. And so you can search for everybody that closed in 2019 in zip code 80908. So if you have a tag that says 2019 and 80908 and buyer, I can search for all three of those things combined and find all my buyers in that zip code from 2019. Decide whether to capitalize or not capitalize the first letter. A lot of systems are case sensitive, and so you could have buyer capital B and buyer lowercase b, and that could be two distinct tags in your system. So keep that in mind. Either capitalize every tag or don't capitalize any of them. Assign one person as the tag tender. I said that backwards. Either capitalize all of them or don't capitalize all of them. Assign one person as the tag tender on your team. So if you're working on a team, make sure one person is assigned to be the tag tender in charge of the tag king or queen, in charge of how we're tagging and when we're tagging people. And then in our system, specifically in Realvolve, workflows can change tags. So if I'm working with a client, I can say that they're an active buyer or an active listing, and once that closes, it can be moved into past client, buyer, etc. So workflows can do that automatically for you, and you don't have to have your team keep up with that. But here's an example of 30 different tags. These are 3-word tags, or 4-word in some cases. And there's 30 of them. But I can streamline the number of tags I have by, this is just 10 tags now. So I went from 30 to 10 by just making them all 1-word tags and combining them like I just said. So it's just a really good tip to tag people. And I would write down on a piece of paper, and I would do this today if you don't have this. Do this today. In a market like this, when it's tight, it's important that you know who to call. Who are your prospects? Where do they live? When did they do business with you? What kind of a client were they when they did business with you? So that you can tailor your outreach strategy based on some very personal information. So we're not just blanket calling everybody or blanket emailing everybody with the same messages, but that we have tailored messages based on their situation. And of course, when you're making your calls, you're making calls into your database, and somebody says, you know, I'm thinking about maybe downsizing our house, but right now the market's really tight and I'm scared that I don't know where to move. You know, I don't know if I can find another house. So I'm not going to move yet. Well, what tags should you apply? And that's up to you, but you might apply some tags that say, wants to, you know, something about downgrade, meaning they want to downgrade the size of their house. They're empty nesters now. Maybe you put empty nester as a tag. And that way, if you want to sit down and call people for 4 hours, I can say, I'm going to call all my empty nesters right now and just talk to them about the market and give them some advice specifically tailored for empty nesters. I can create a drip campaign in an email with 2 or 3 emails that talk about what empty nesters should be considering right now in today's market, and likewise with text messages. So the tags can be extremely valuable, but you have to use them. So again, if you don't have good tags, I want to challenge everybody on this call today. Get a piece of paper out and write down which things do you wish you had in your database when it comes to tags. And when you're making your calls, your next round of calls, start applying those tags to each person as you go along so that you don't find yourself in that situation again without having tags. So, and changing tags throughout the process is extremely challenging, which is why I love Realvolve, because of those workflows, and they can change the tags for you. So you don't have to always be remembering to change those tags. Now, in our system, if you do tag, you can then search and create filters, and you can create saved lists. So I can have my empty nesters list. I can have my first time buyer leads list. I can have all of my past clients with young children. I can have them all on a list. So I can do anything I want and combine the date that I met the people, when we sold their house, and I can combine that and stack that up with the tags as well. There's also some really cool things that our system does with relationship scoring. I'm not going to talk a ton about that today, but you can sort your whole database by how strong of a relationship you have with them according to our third-party objective opinion. You might have an opinion about how close your relationship is with somebody. Our system is going to say, this is how good you do at following up with that person. And so we're giving you this score. And you can then use that score and sort by the smallest to largest or largest to smallest to help you figure out who to reach out to, especially in a difficult market like what we're talking about today. Now I'm going to talk about something a little bit more out there up in the clouds for just a second. Forgive me, but I think this is extremely important. So the Fibonacci sequence is it's a famous mathematical equation that scientists find in everything. In everything that we can study, you can find this. Of course, the shape of a snail's shell can be calculated with this Fibonacci sequence called the golden ratio. It's closely related to the golden ratio. And you can find the golden ratio in the size of feathers in birds, in the size of galaxies, the shape of galaxies, how many large stars to small stars there are in a galaxy, all the way down to wave patterns in the ocean and all kinds of things like that. It also manifests itself in human behavior. The golden ratio can be used to calculate human behavior. And again, it's kind of closely related to the 80-20 rule. But the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio are actually embedded in everything that we do in Realvolve. And so we've got these calculations based on a learning algorithm that calculates, when I've talked about how we score relationships and we score how likely somebody is to do business with you again, we're using some golden ratio calculations. And so over time, we've figured out, based on your follow-up, we can predict how many transactions you can expect from repeat and referral business out of your database. And so we use the RFactor. Again, I didn't want to get too deep into the relationship score, but the relationship score that you have with each contact, based on how you're communicating with them, goes into this RFactor score. So if you look at the bottom middle box there, the RFactor Prediction, Realvolve can tell you on a scale of 1 to 10 how good you are at following up with your past clients. Now, there's plenty of businesses that measure these kinds of things for their business. I used to do marketing. I did internet marketing for restaurants, and they tried to measure how many people came with the bounce back coupons, which was, like pizza shops put the coupons on the pizza box, and then when people cut those coupons out and come back, they track that, and that's kind of their churn score or their repeat and referral score to say, look, these pizza coupons are driving our business, and I want to track the impact of that follow-up method, which is that bounce back coupon. And a lot of different businesses do that. Software businesses are really deep in the business of measuring how many of their clients stay, what their retention is, right? Comcast and Verizon, they all do it. In real estate, it's really difficult. It's hard for us to know right off the bat when someone did business with somebody else. And so we don't have these immediate feedback loops when we lose a client. But going back to that safety net concept, if Realvolve or a tool that you use can predict how many repeat and referral business deals you can get based on your current past client follow-up, now you have some actionable items, some actionable things you can work on to improve the follow-up. So the relationship score combined with that contact cross-section, the grid that I showed you, that safety net, combined with this RFactor, can actually tell you what you can expect in the next 12 months from repeat and referral deals. So as you can see in my database, I have 313 contacts. My RFactor is a 6. It's predicting now, that's about a high average score for our Realvolve customer base. And so Realvolve's predicting I can do 36 transactions because I do such a good job of following up with people. And my predicted revenue for the next 12 months is $546,000 because of my price point, my average deal size, et cetera. And so using this data, I then can say, I should be calling more people, or I need better email campaigns, or I just need to bring more leads into my pipeline because I'm doing a good job following up. And I'm getting repeat and referral business, but I just want more volume. So we need to bring more lead sources into the business. So it can help you think about your business strategically and understand what you can do to move the needle ahead of time. Because that's one of the biggest problems that we face in our industry is that the lead time, right? I said an average client may be worth $100,000, but that's over 20 years. And so if I want to be making my income goals every year, I need a formula to follow, which includes the repeat and referral and how many leads I need with my current conversion rate. And a tool like Realvolve can really help you do that. And so we're always shooting for about a 5% penetration would be a decent score. You want a 5% penetration into your database. Make sure that 5% are repeat referral deals coming back to you. So if you got 178 past clients, you want to make sure you get about 9 repeat and referral deals out of those past clients if you're doing a good job of following up well. So I shared a lot with you. I want to wrap up here really quickly, but I do want to reinforce the point that it's extremely important that we start following up. We haven't followed up. There's not a lot of shortcuts that we can do to get a bunch of listings right now. But the thing we can do that can move the needle pretty quickly is phone calls. And of course, dropping by with some chocolates or something, you don't have to spend a ton of money. Just get some sort of a small gift to drop by some of your best clients. And right now is a great time because I've noticed with COVID, I dropped by some people's homes actually on Monday evening of this week. And, so I was in the car for about 2 hours and I dropped, between quick conversations on the porch and the drive time and everything, I spent about 2 hours and dropped off some goodies to some folks, had some really great 10, 15-minute conversations that just really strengthened the bond that I haven't seen people. Some of these people I haven't seen in over a year or more because of COVID. But people are home right now. It's so much easier to catch them home, where before it was really difficult because everybody was going to soccer games and work and whatever. And right now it's just so easy to catch them. So I actually caught everybody that I went to. They were all home. A couple of people I texted and some of them just surprised them. So I just really want to encourage you to reach out to people in as personal way as possible, sort your database properly so that you're targeting people with the right messages, establish that baseline safety net so that at least everybody's getting some automated emails and text campaigns. And again, if you need some ideas, reach out to us, go to realvolve.com/demo. We've got tons of ideas taken from the best teams in the industry have contributed to our library. So coaches and teams, and we've moderated and kind of consolidated some of that content, tweaked it, made it awesome. And these are all available in our workflow library. They're campaigns, they're transaction plans, they're how to manage buyers, how to manage leads. It's all there for you. And we have some amazing staff members that can help you get started. We actually employ a whole team of kind of transaction managers or admins, team admins that came from the industry that can help you tailor and customize all of these plans, this automation, a tagging system, a follow-up plan, lead conversion plans for you and your team. So you can elevate your game to level 11 and make sure that you have a healthy flow of listings coming back to you from your past clients and not let any of those past clients slip through the cracks and go to somebody else. A quick note, and please, any questions that you have, any comments for me, put those in the Q&A, put those in the chat. Hopefully there was at least 1 or 2 helpful ideas for you. And really my goal today was to motivate everybody to elevate their game and their follow-up and make sure that they're providing value. But if you have any comments for me, please put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A. And if you had a question about something, put that in there too. I did just want to make one other comment, which is there are so many people right now that don't know what to do, that have thought about selling their home. Maybe they were thinking about selling in 2019, the pandemic hit, and they were paralyzed. And they would love to hear from you about your advice for them. And your advice might not be that they should sell their home right now. And if you can get in the habit of calling people and providing that advice to them, what can they do with bridge loans? What can they do for rent? Like what are the prospects like if they want to move and rent for the next 12 months or 14 months? What would the process be like for them trying to buy a home? How can you help them manage that? if they just wanted to rent for a little while they found another home. Maybe they need to sell their home for lots of reasons, economic impact, whatever. But talking it through with you is something that I guarantee you your clients would be interested in doing right now, and just getting your take on the current market. So if you're not doing that, do that. Put a plan in place and start doing that immediately. So really quick, as I'm waiting for any comments or questions to come through, I want to talk about Realvolve's 4D automation platform, just for about 2 or 3 minutes here. So most automation platforms out there in the industry are built on these top 2 Ds. They're time delays and specific dates, meaning automation can be scheduled on a time delay, and automation can be scheduled on specific dates. So I could say, I want to shoot this mass email off, a bulk email out, 2 days before Thanksgiving or something later this year. Or I want to start a drip campaign for a lead or for a past client that emails them every 2 days. And it's a time delay of 2 days or 3 days. And sometimes you can tweak that in between emails or text messages. With Realvolve, we've added in these other 2 dimensions. We've added in decision points. So you can actually make decisions on the fly. And that's really important because, like I said, with the listing appointment example that I showed you, if you don't get the listing, if there's no decision yet, or if you do get the listing, you want to go in one of 3 different directions to continue on with the follow-up. And we allow you to do that with the decision points automations, and then dones. So when something gets finished, you can move on to the next step. And that applies to, was photography ordered? And after you get photography in, then you can update the MLS and print flyers and all the things you can't do until photos come back, as an example. So you can mix and match all 4 of these Ds into one workflow. Now this workflow can be for lead conversion. It can be for past client follow-up. It can be to run a whole listing plan. It can be for a transaction. It can be for contract to close transaction coordination. So when you mix and match, these are just tons of power. And then of course, on top of that, we have templates, sorry. We have data entry templates, meaning when you're talking on the phone with somebody, within the task, you can be reminded to fill out key pieces of information on that task, and then it actually saves it to the contact record for you. And you don't have to be clicking around to all the different contacts. You just go down your task list. So checklists, reminders, emails, all of it's templated out ahead of time so that you don't have to be thinking so much on the fly. You can be building relationships, talking to people, working on your marketing, coaching your team, all of those things that have a bigger impact than just executing really well on a couple of tasks. Let me just show you one example of this. So Krista Mayshore out in California, she has this amazing listing appointment automation, and several people on the team are reminded to do things. So the admin, the listing agent going to the appointment are all reminded to do certain things. Right when they schedule the listing appointment, they put that in Realvolve. It puts it on the listing agent's calendar, puts it on the admin's calendar, and on the marketing coordinator's calendar. 2 days before, there's an automatic listing presentation video email that goes out. This is before the presentation. That goes out, and it's just a video that was pre-recorded using BombBomb and the Realvolve BombBomb integration, and it just automatically sends it out. Educational information about the team and about what the process is going to be like listing their home. A day before, the agent is reminded that there's an appointment. They are reminded to call and confirm, and that just comes across as a text message. They can click the phone number in the text message and call and confirm, and then their marketing coordinator drops off a brochure on the front porch. And then, of course, listing appointment happens. If there was no decision, if they don't walk out there with a listing agreement signed, Realvolve begins a follow-up campaign to make sure to nurture those people pretty aggressively after that listing appointment, make sure that nobody else gets it. And they're converting like 95% of their listing appointments because they have such tight processes and really good marketing materials to go along with it, to make sure that they're warming these people up as much as possible. They can walk out of there with a listing appointment. So that was just one quick example of something you can do with workflows. There are thousands of other things you can do. I just want to invite everybody, please reach out to us via via our website. So go to realvolve.com/demo. Jacob posted it there in the chat, and just talk to us. Let's talk and see what there might be for you to do in your business today. And maybe we can be of help. Maybe that library is something you can lean on to help you be more streamlined. So Amanda says, I'm having a hard time streamlining my follow-up processes. What suggestions do you have besides drip campaigns? So, I mean, Amanda, there are a lot of things you can do. This is a big question. One thing that I recommend is categorizing your clients to prioritize your most effective follow-up. So you should have maybe, and this is how we do it in Realvolve. So depending on what system you're using, there's lots of different ways to do this. But in Realvolve, we have A, B, C, D categories. And your A clients, you want to follow up with those people at least once a month. And then your B clients, maybe it's once a quarter or once every 2 months. But you can actually program that in Realvolve. There's just a little box that says, how often do you want to follow up with A clients? How often do you want to follow up with B clients? And we can put those in the contact cross section for you so that you can just go through that and use that dialer and call. So I would suggest a combination of things, right? Because you're not going to get to everybody all the time. But if you have some emails going out, some direct mail going out, some text messages going out at a different frequency, and then some phone calls, and maybe you're only getting to people once a quarter, you get this stacking effect now. So the hardest thing to do, obviously, is drop by their house. Second hardest is pick up the phone and call them. Calling is obviously way easier than dropping by, but it still takes a lot of effort to get through a big, long list of people. But because you're doing all of those other things, that one call every 3 months, or hopefully that one call a month, means even more, because your clients are now going to notice all of this other stuff that you're doing. And again, you get this stacking effect. I teach my sales reps to do a double up strategy. I always say double up, follow up, double up, follow up, double up, follow up. And what that means is if you're going to be calling people, text them on the same day. If you're going to text them and not call them, email them on the same day and reference each follow up to the other when you're sending that. So I'm going to send out an email and I'm going to send out a text message. And in the text message, it's going to say, I also emailed you, so check your email. And in the email, it's going to say, I also texted you. And so I can do that through automation, but I could write something today. I could write something right now based on something I heard in the news about the market or whatever. And I would craft an email and a text message, and I can send out that email to a list of people. So I can say, I want, target this zip code, target this municipality, whatever it is, only target my past clients that were buyers that are living in the community still. And then send them a blast. Even if it's just 20 people on that list, craft a message that's important to them and send it off today. And think that way every single day. What can I do to add value to my folks? It might be an email, it might be a drip campaign, it might be a text message, it might be a phone call. But if you're stacking all of this up, you get this exponential effect in the relationship side that you get to earn more credit. And it's a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario, because again, when they see that you're following up with them on all these ways, it changes the perception that any one single piece of follow-up is going to have on them. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. You can also do some really cool things, Amanda, with outsourcing. So I use My Outdesk. We have My Outdesk people, and I like to go into, so Realvolve and Firepoint are owned, both of those products are owned by us. So we own Firepoint and Realvolve. And in Firepoint, I can have a virtual assistant go through and create home valuation reports or tee those up for me to be able to send. And so we can have people generating home valuation reports and sending those off, and then texting them and just say, do you want to chat about this? If you're confused about what's going on in the market, or you want my perspective, I'm happy to chat. And then depending on where you're at with your vaccines or your comfort level, you can always grab some coffee, ask people to go on a quick walk, get 2 of your past clients together and go on a walk with them. There's all kinds of things you can do to maximize your efficacy. Hopefully, past client events become accepted later this year, and we can get back to doing that, because that's another really, really effective way to get a lot of people at once through some past client events. And we have really cool workflows for running past client events, whether that's renting out movie theaters, dropping off pies for those pie events, some cool things you can do around like the 4th of July and other holidays to drop things off, to do like a pop by blitz, where you get a couple of people on your team or an assistant, or hire some high school kids or whatever, and just go out and blanket drop things off at people's houses. So that's the way I look at it. I look for stacking effects. I want to make sure that I'm not just hitting them in one place. It makes it more efficient because it's more effective, and you have to do less of it in the long run. So prioritize, double it up, and make sure that you categorize A, B, C, D differently, but that you're also categorizing your tags so that you know what message you're bringing to those A clients or those B clients based on the tags and the categories and the notes that you have about them in the system. So I get $5 ice cream coupons from my agent to my kids. Right, so every time I have 3 kids, they have a birthday, they get a $5 coupon. So that costs him $15 for my family every year, and I already told you I referred 10 people to him. So his ROI on those ice cream cards is astronomical. Any other questions that anybody has? Questions or comments? We kind of only invited a smaller group this time. Usually we have a much bigger crowd on our webinars. So yes, again, last time I'm going to hammer it. Go to realvolve.com/demo, strike up a conversation. Let's chat about what is it like in your market right now, and what can we do to help you in your current strategy to make sure that we hit your goals. It's April. What can we do if it's starting off slow for you? What can we do to help you increase and get to the goals? If you're one of those few agents that is just crazy busy right now, off the charts, we can also help you streamline some of your customer service processes, the transactions, the listings. We can streamline that for you so you can get back to following up with clients effectively, making sure you're staying up with your lead sources so that you don't have the plateau effect of high, low, high, low, high, low, because it's difficult to balance lead gen, lead conversion, past client follow-up with current level of business. We can help with that too. All right, well, it's 5 minutes till. I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you have any comments for me, please email at dale.warner@realvolve.com. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'm always open to questions, and if you have need of something else other than a CRM, I'm happy to chime in and let you know of some of the partners that we work with that we recommend. I hope everybody's killing it in their business. I hope we all weather this tough market, this fever market. I hope we navigate it successfully this year, and I'm hoping that you're hitting your goals. And if not, reach out right away, and let's hopefully get you back on track. So thanks again. Have a great day. Bye for now. We'll see you on the next one.